Yo, 2005 Kia Sportage with a 2.7 liter V6. This crazy fool had a leaking water pump and he decided to add water to it for 3 months until he finally drove it here and it wouldn't work anymore. Apparently he went through 6 gallons of water trying to get it here. It sounds like it's got compression on 2 cylinders. Of course, I got to replace a timing belt and water pump on the thing. He might have wrecked the engine. I don't know. So the first thing I'm going to do is see if all the timing belt marks are lined up and see if the timing belt is still kind of okay. I have 4 10mm bolts for this top cover. I have 4 17mm bolts for this mount. I'm going to let the iron fall. See what happens. And it's stuck. Generally you want to just find a good spot on the corner of the oil pan with a block of wood and just jack on it just ever so slightly. The corner of the oil pan will give you the most support. That's why I say that. Then you want to hang on to this mount, and while you jack it up real nice and slow, eventually it'll loosen up and come right out. I'm just going to let this down. It should be okay like that for now. I have a tensioner for this serpentine belt. It's got a 3/8 square on it. I can use a breaker bar or a ratchet or something. I'm going to get more leverage on this thing. I got a 16mm deep well and a long extension. Pull back on it and I loosen it up enough so I can get it off of this, I don't know, power steering pump maybe. Now this belt, it really won't come off unless I loosen up or take off this tensioner. There's not enough room to get the thing off. It's really kind of dumb. I gotta unbolt this power steering pump, and there's a pressure switch wire here. I can squeeze that tab in. There's a little tab on it. And then I think there's 2 14mm bolts on this. One of them's down here. You can't see it. I got a deep well on a 14. I can feel it in there. Have a little magnet. Get that out of there. And I have another one right here I can actually see. Now I can try to move this thing out of the way somehow. Little bungee cord action. Now I have a whole bunch of 10mm on this top cover. That one is wrong. I don't even know what's going on there. It's all crooked. I think I got them all. Nice broken chunk of that cover. I'm gonna crank this over and try to find these timing marks. 21mm on this tire. I have some 10mm on this plastic cover. As you can see, it's showing me a T for top and a 10 for 10 degrees before top dead center. And there's a line on the crankshaft somewhere I want to line up with this T. It looks like it's right there. 22mm on this nut. So I got that little notch right there on the T. Now I just got to check my camshaft marks, and either it's going to be 180 degrees off or it's going to be on. The crankshaft runs 2 revolutions to every revolution of the camshaft. And as you can see, there's a dot on the pulley and a mark on the cover. Same thing on the rear. It's all lined up real nice, and this thing won't run. So that means he overheated the living heck out of it. What happens is a lot of times is if you cook the engine really good, you'll have a whole bunch of carbon from 100 or 200,000 miles, however old this car is, and all this carbon buildup on the valves gets cooked, and it actually just dribbles down the valve because your valve just got glowing red, and then it doesn't hold compression anymore and it won't run. So I can probably put some brake cleaner down the throttle body and it kind of cleans it and starts it on fire and tries to burn all that out, and it'll probably run again. unless he cooked it so bad it doesn't want to work ever again. There's two 12 millimeters on this serpentine belt tensioner. I'm going to get that off first. Looks like this bolt doesn't come out. It's got to come out with the tensioner. It's too long. Well, this belt has to go back in with the tensioner too, because it wraps underneath it. You can actually loosen the bolts up enough to squirrel it around the back of it. There's a breather hose here I can unplug. Mass airflow sensor. I push in this wire to unplug that. I can pinch the back side of this connector. Get that wire off of there. 10 millimeter clamps. Looks like somebody already loosened this one up and did something goofy with it. Well, this isn't drive-by wire or anything, so there's an actual throttle on here I can open up. I got some brake cleaner here. It says it's extremely flammable, so that's what I want. I'm just going to open up this throttle body here, and I'm going to pour this down in here and crank it over. Put a good amount in there, see if I can smoke up my garage and blow this thing up. I got a fire extinguisher. I'm not too worried. I would like to spray some in here, just a liberal amount, while somebody's cranking it over, but I'm doing this by myself, so I'm going to try this again. I'm going to hold the throttle wide open in the car this time. See if this thing wants to run. Yup, he cooked it all right. Try this again. A little more brake cleaner. Crazy fool got this thing super hot. I got to get out of the garage and let this air out. I zeroed all the timing marks again. Now I need to get this crankshaft pulley off. There's two pegs right here. There's a tool that you can hold this balancer. I should be able to get this off with an impact though. It's not that tight. So I can just give this a wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Try to pull it out. I got it halfway out, now it's stuck. Push it back in, try it again. Well, the thing don't want to come out. I'm going to put a little deep creep down inside the hole. There's a roll pin on this thing, and the crank pulley and the harmonic balancer is stuck together really good, so this thing isn't coming apart. I'm just going to pull it out, start whacking on it with a hammer, try to loosen this stuff up. I can see that roll pin is loose. It's moving around. Just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. It'll come out. Ah, there it goes. Stupid thing. I have a 17 millimeter on this idler pulley here. Looks like this timing cover's seen better days. They're all 10 millimeters. Something's so wrong with this thing, I can't even get a socket on here. Damn tree jackers. Now I'm going to need to get this engine mount bracket off. It looks like there's 3 14 millimeters on this. I can feel one more bolt right here. I can't really see it. It's a 12 millimeter. Oh, special. The dipstick tube's bolted onto this thing too. There's this wonderful bolt behind the dipstick tube. And it's in a wonderful spot. And I can put a deep well on there with an extension. Like that. And now I can proceed to take something off I can barely see. I started a 14 millimeter here just so I could get that bolt off. So I'm going to take this out. And this mount should come out this time around. I zeroed the camshaft and the crankshaft marks again. If you can see, there's a little notch on the pulley there. And that's my zero mark for that. Now I'm going to get this tensioner off of here. There's a little pinhole in here. You can put this in a vise and squish it down and put a pin through it so you can put it back in. But I would always recommend replacing these because when they get old enough, they lose the hydraulic fluid and then they don't work anymore. I got a 12 millimeter here to get these off. 14 millimeter on this tensioner pulley. The 14 millimeter on this idler pulley. Wow, that was super loose. Jesus, some of these are over tightened and some of them are too loose. Tree jackers. I can get this belt off. Don't be surprised if the cam sprockets move. What a lovely belt. Yeah, that's a little loose. Oh my God. What a piece of junk. I don't know if this thing's gonna leak any coolant or not, probably a little bit, so I put a drain pan down. These water pump bolts are all 12 millimeters. This was a sound hack job. It's got a GMB water pump on it. I can see the marks right there. Now it's starting to drip a little bit. I'm gonna loosen this one just a little bit so it doesn't gush all over the place on me. Get something behind here and pry it open a little bit and let her drip. I think it's done dripping enough. I can take this bolt out. Wow, a rusty impeller. Nice. I'm gonna have to get in here with a gasket scraper and a razor blade and try to get this gasket off of here without damaging the surface. I told the victim to order me a DOHC timing belt kit from Amazon because he's kind of cheap and he wanted cheap and good, and here's what I got. I got a bag of Chinese junk with a DOHC belt in it. GMB pulley. GMB pulley. The bag's open. I don't know what the heck this is for. Oh, open box. Just been rattling around. What we got here? VG, some cheap generic Chinese water pump. Oh my God. Oh, broken water pump gasket. Super nice. Chinese junkness, tensioner. Oh, it says China right on it. Oh, nice. Oh yeah, this is a DOHC kit all the way. Not. And a DOHC belt. I just hope it's not a Chinese belt that they printed. Jesus, man. Frickin' Amazon. Well, that's a disappointment. I gotta go get a gasket. I told the victim this is a knockoff kit, and even though it says DOHC made in Italy on it, it probably is Chinese. I've had Chinese Honda kits where these belts last about 5,000 miles and they just shred into nothing. I told him that, and I gave him the option to get a different kit, and he said no, he doesn't have any money, so he's gonna roll dice. I have a Fel-Pro water pump gasket here. I think there's 2 alignment pins on here. I only see one on the car. One of them probably came out with the pump and they didn't put it back in the block like smart people do. So I'm going to get some high-tack. I got an old can of Permatex high-tack here, and I'm going to high-tack this gasket onto the pump so it doesn't move around on me. I just got to put a really thin coat. Then I get to put a small coat on the gasket too. Now if you want, you can let that dry and get tacky for up to 10 minutes. Of course I don't want, so I'm just sticking it on. And that should be good. I'm gonna put some brake cleaner on a rag and just run around here. Make sure there's nothing on here. There's no big pits or anything in here, so I don't think I'm gonna use any gasket sealant like the last idiot did. I got an alignment pin here, and I got an alignment pin that's probably supposed to be here, but I only have one. Probably be easier on me if I put it down here. I'll just stick it up there and line it up with that pin as best as I can. I got one bolt started, so it shouldn't go anywhere. The people that manufactured this thing, they put 4 different length bolts in this. So all I'm gonna do is just start them like a turn. Because if I get one in a wrong spot, I'm gonna know, because there's usually only about 4 threads that are supposed to be showing. And if they're the wrong size and they're too short, there's not gonna be 4 threads. And if there's too long, there's gonna be more. A lot of people mark these. I never do. See, like that one don't belong there. That one don't belong there. Okay, now as you can see, I got all the bolts just started, and they're all out the same depth, so I know they're right. Now I'm just gonna snug all these down. They're all touching the lock washers now. Now I'm gonna snug them down so the lock washers are crushed, and I'm gonna kind of go in a crisscross pattern. I'll just make one up. Now I can final torque these to 12 foot-pounds or 144 inch-pounds. Now I'm just going to run around in a circle and double check them all. I have a tensioner pulley here. I'm going to put this in a vise and try not to wreck anything. I have a 14 millimeter here. Doesn't look like there's any shim or anything. Looks like it can go either way. It really doesn't matter. I can torque this down to 40 foot-pounds. And this has got a little slider thing in here. A lot of times these are supposed to be dry. I think somebody put some lubricant in here and it's all sticky and nasty. I don't want to touch the inside of here. I just want to kind of clean it out and make sure there's nothing in there. I don't want to use sandpaper or anything because there's babbitt material in these, just like a bearing. This is all rusty though, it shouldn't be. I can hit this with some emery cloth and just clean it up. So now it spins really nice. And that's what I want. I suppose I could put some urea grease or something on here. These are dry from the factory though. Now I can put this tensioner on. This idler pulley's got a pin on it. There's a pinhole. I want to line that hole up. And these get torqued to 40 foot-pounds too. Now that I got all these torqued down, I just need to make sure this thing flops around real nice and these bearings spin really good. Now I can put this belt back on. I double checked my marks and I made sure the camshaft and the crankshaft pulley's all zeroed the way it's supposed to be. First thing I want to do is go around the crankshaft. I want to make sure this tensioner's all the way back that way. Now, one thing you need to understand about timing belts is they got drive sides and driven sides. The drive side's always tight and it's on the opposite side of the tensioner. So the drive side usually should go on first and it's got to be tight. It's got to fit so there's no slop in there. See all that slop? That's wrong. So I got to try to tighten this up more. There. That should be okay. And then I got to run this around the water pump. And I got to make sure that's taut, of course. And then I can go around this other pulley here and make sure that side's taut as well. This is a little too floppy, so that's wrong. It's being a bear, so I'm just gonna move this pulley just a little bit. I can see the mark move too. I can tighten that up. Still too loose. I'm going to move this pulley back just a hair. So I got this one taut, this one taut. That feels nice. I just slide it over the tensioner now. And then this side should be loose. And it is, it's really loose. Now I'm going to double check my marks. I'm pretty sure I got it. So that crankshaft mark's lined up, and this side's taut, and this side is really loose. That front pulley's lined up with that notch, and this is nice and taut on both sides. The rear pulley's lined up too. It can be within 7 degrees off. They don't need to be exactly perfect. If you're a half a tooth off or more though, you might be wrong. Now I can install this tensioner. I have those snug down, and now I can tighten them down to 18 foot-pounds. Now if you want, you can double check everything and make sure nothing moved. I have faith in my work, so I'm just going to pull this pin, and that should load the tensioner. I'm going to put this crankshaft pulley on. I'm going to go ahead and turn this 2 revolutions so everything lines up again. And then I'm going to take this pulley off and double check my marks. Looks like this annoying mount's next. I jacked up the engine a little bit to make my life a little easier. The 12mm on the top gets torqued to 18 foot-pounds, just like the tensioner. And the 3 14mm, they get torqued to 50 foot-pounds. Now I got to get this annoying bolt for the dipstick. I just put the bolt into the socket, and I'm using a lot of hope. This ridiculous bolt for the dipstick tube should be torqued to 18 foot-pounds as well, if you care about such a thing. Now for this lower cover, it's a nice piece of ridiculousness. It warped really bad, so it ground a hole in it, and it got so hot that the plastic melted. These get tightened down to 7 foot-pounds if you care. Now I can put this crankshaft pulley back on again. Now this thing needs to get torqued to 130 foot-pounds. There's a special tool that holds this crankshaft in place so you can torque it down. You might be able to cheat and go to Harbor Freight and get one of these chain things and stick it around here and vice grip this thing down. I'm not doing any of that. I'm using a 140-pound torque stick because I care. One and done. I can put this idler pulley back on. This one gets tightened to 40 foot-pounds. Top cover time. All of these little 6x1 timing cover bolts get torqued to 7 foot-pounds or 84 inch-pounds. 7 times 12, 84. You care about such a thing? I'm going to jack up this engine again. Now I can try to put this annoying serpentine belt tensioner back on with the belt around it. These get torqued to 18 foot-pounds as well. Now I get to do the power steering pump. 40 foot-pounds on these. Plug this sensor back in. I can put this mount on now. 60 foot-pounds on all of these. I got a 65-pound torque stick. I'm gonna call that good enough. I can lose my jack now. Serpentine belts next. I just Googled a diagram. That's what I came up with. Sometimes I write it down. Make sure it's all in the grooves. Looks like I got that annoying thing on. I'm gonna start this thing up for a second, see if it wants to run. Oh. Gee, I guess I should have block tested this before I did anything. A block tester is fluid that's blue, and if it goes from blue to yellow, it tests hydrocarbons in the cooling system. He totally wrecked this engine. Okay, bye.